Okay, since I posted my articles about the Trinity and try to help people with that, is some people said, hey, wait a minute, Jesus accepts freely all this worship towards him, so he must know he's God. I mean, why would that happen? He just let people worship him. And, you just feel sorry for people, and I really do, that our translators are willing to connive and mislead people, that they somehow knew when a person just simply was kneeling down to talk to Jesus, or kneeling in front of him because of out of respect, or because they think he's the king, right? Well, there could be many reasons people would kneel, and that's translated as worship. Okay, it's false. I'm just going to put out plainly there. Now, if you absolutely knew the person is bowing down to God, and you knew for a fact, and you're not trying to add something to the text. So if you had to admit that the Trinity is never expressly in the Bible, it's something we infer. You cannot make the assumption that you're right about all your inferences, and then anytime someone bows down to Jesus, you have to kneels before Jesus, you have to translate it as worship. So it's just they're not mind readers, and yet they pretend to be, but what they're really doing is they're trying to promote the Trinity out of verses that don't apply. So let me talk to you about this. So we're just going to look at one word, and I'm going to go through basically a concordance of where it appears in different verses. And the best place to go is a very fair, very good guy named Bill Mounce, and he has a Bible Gateway page where he has all the New Testament up there with transliteral. He's done this work for free. I mean, I'm sure he's getting paid something, but I mean, he's basically done a lot of hard work for everybody's benefit. I'm sure he's done it out of the love of the Lord. So he's done a great job, and he's put this search engine that you and I can go type in a word, and we can get the answer. I'm going to show you how to use this. So number one, you're going to learn something about that. So here's his website. So the question today is worship sometimes fraudulently translated toward Jesus in the New Testament? Now I'm going to say yes. Now they're going to say no, because we believe in the Trinity, and we believe that Jesus is God. So whenever the people will kneel to him, we're supposed to translate it this way. And I want to say something to all the translators. The word proskineo means to kneel before someone. That's all it means. Kineo, you can even hear the word knee there, right? So you are changing the word's literal meaning to something else. You're not supposed to do that. Now you might think that when someone knelt before Jesus, you would think it was a form of worship, but you're not allowed to jump to that conclusion and change the actual true literal translation of the word. So just to give you an idea, if you talk in English to people, you would know, if you say I'm going to the ball game, people know you mean you're going to the ball game, right? And so you wouldn't say, he's going out to have fun. If somebody asked what did he say, and you said, well, he was going out to have fun, but you don't know I was having fun. Maybe I had a business appointment. I had to go there, and I'm not really happy about going to the ball game. You don't know. You can't jump to a conclusion. You need to use my literal words. When you change my words, you're adding what you presuppose into and changing the value meaning of my words. So proskineo only has so much value you can give to it. And it only really means in Greek, I'm going to bow before you, proskineo, okay? So now let's take a look at how this is misused and abused terribly. Okay, I'm just going to show you something briefly. This is about the word proskineo, and if you want to, you can use the Mounce at the address I gave you earlier. You can go look at things up there, and it will really best work. I mean, it says here, if you read carefully, or you can see, it says you can put a Strong's number in, a Greek number in, but you can also put an English word. So if you want to find the word proskineo, look, I have proskineo already preset, but if you type that in or search on it, it won't go. It'll say no result. But if you type the word kneel, I'm going to go back and put kneel. So that's what it means. Proskineo means to kneel or bow before. Okay, so now you got all the words. I'm going to quickly show you something. So if you want, if you know Greek and you can recognize the letter pi, there's your P, there's your R. So this is proskineo. And if you're not sure, can you look down in the bottom corner of the screen? Do you see where it says www Bill Mounce Greek Dictionary? It then says proskineo. So if you had any doubt about how to read Greek, it'll be transliterated into English letters, and you can be sure that you've got the right word. So now we're going to go in there. I'm going to just teach you from a few examples. I'm not going to go through all of this, that the translators are assuming they can interpret whether someone is bowing the knee in a worshipful sense towards God or in a non-worshipful sense, and they move the meaning around deliberately. So my advocacy would be this, is that it should always be bow the knee, literal. If it's towards God, you could say bow the knee in reverence, or if it's a worship on a mountain, it could be bow the knees in reverence on a mountain. But never change the literal meaning, because it should be exactly, if I were a Greek listener from 2,000 years ago, what would I have heard? I would have heard the words proskineo. I mean, think of the word knee. Kineo comes from knee. Basically the sound is the same. So if you heard the words, if a person says in English to you, you bow the knee, and then you try to translate that into a single word called worship in Italian, let's say, you're not telling that Italian what that word actually was in English. You're misleading and you're misrepresenting what it says. And so that's what they're doing, and they'll decide that if it's Jesus, because Jesus is God, therefore it must have been with the intention of that they were worshiping him in a sense of being God. But that's not the case, and you'll see sometimes they realize it's not so certain, so they don't do it. So we'll go over a few of these. So I just want to give you an example. Here in 2:8, they're going to talk about the Magi, okay, and they're going to allegedly worship him. But I want to say this to you. A baby being born, being God, is an exceptional fact. So I think unless these people knew about how he was born, or if there is a virgin birth or whatever, they would have no clue. They would probably be there because Daniel said the Messiah is going to come, and gave him the dates, and he's there. And as far as Daniel knows, he's just simply a regular human being. He's going to be the Son of Man. He calls him that in Daniel 7, verse 25. The Son of Man means in Hebrew, son of Adam. It means you're a human being. So as far as he knows, he's a regular human being. He told the Magi the approximate date he's going to be cut off, 32 AD, technically. And therefore, they would go 40 years backward and find him born in a manger. If this, this whole story is the same Magi, or the same Magi that served under Daniel. I mean, they're ancestors, so that's plausible, right? Okay, so just want to say is they should not say worship. They just say they bowed the knee towards the baby Jesus. And if you want, in reverence, because of him being a king, a king coming to birth. Same thing with, Mary falling to her knees. They worshipped him. Yeah, she thinks she's got God as a kid. Not the way she talks to him later. In Luke, she thinks he's gone crazy. It's all off the deep end. So there's an incongruity with this idea of translating worship instead of bowing the knee or showing homage or something like that. That's or just kneeling down in front of your son, because that's all it really means, as we'll see. So let's jump ahead here. Here's a good one. Matthew 9:18. As he was saying these things, a ruler came and bowed before him. So in this case, even though it's Jesus, he's going to tell him, my daughter's died. It's the translators are thinking, well, here we're not sure the ruler believes Jesus is God, so we won't translate it as worship. Okay, that's why they're doing it. But if they thought he was even close to saying he was God, they would have translated it as worship. And that's not how you judge these things. You shouldn't add any interpretations in the text. Here's one where a young woman comes to him and she kneels. She came and knelt, proskineo, there it is, saying, Lord, help me. So this is another example where they're not sure if she's worshiping, if he's bowing the knee because she thinks he's God or because she just wants some help. And they concluded she just wants some help. So now they don't use the word worship. But see, that's the wrong, I just want to cement this, is that means the translator has become an interpreter of what people are thinking and speculating on what they are thinking in order to decide if they're going to say it was worship, instead of what they should just do literally is simply say, bowed the knee. And if it's the context fits appropriately, maybe it's about God, you could put bow the knee in reverence, just out of respect for God Almighty. But to load it up and give another meaning other than what the writer of this is conveying by the word proskineo to a Greek, the translator should never do that. Okay, here's another example. Matthew 18:26. You can't lie to the people reading this that this is a parable about a servant who's begging his master for forgiveness on a debt, and so they translated correctly. So the servant fell to the ground prostrate, proskynei. Can you see that? Proskynei. Before him, saying, have patience with me, and I will repay everything. So you see, When it's not Jesus receiving this, they translate it correctly. When it's Jesus getting it, they most of the time translate it incorrectly, and they load up the term and they interpret it as being a worship act. And then when we hear the word worship, we infer Jesus is God. Okay, I can show you a few more. Here's when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and bowed before him. So here's one where, again, it's Jesus, but they're interpreting that maybe they're not worshiping him, they're just running towards him, and that's fine. So, but most of the time they're going to say he's God. Okay, here's another one that's interesting. And Mark 15:19, and they kept striking his head with a staff and spitting on him, and falling to their knees, they paid homage to him. Oh, this must have been the soldiers, right? So they don't think they're really worshiping Jesus. And that actually shows you there's another word you could say, paid homage, which doesn't mean you necessarily think the person is God. Homage is something you show a king. So, you know, that would be another possibility. You show homage to Jesus as a king. You're not, you know, we do that with rulers. You know, you meet the Queen of England or you meet the King of England and you're British, you're going to bow the knee, you're going to kneel and show homage. It's called homage. It doesn't mean you're thinking the Queen or the King is God, and that's why the word worship is a much more loaded expression. But let me see if I can find one or two more here. John 9:38, and then the man said, I believe, Lord, and he bowed, proskineo, in reverence before him. I'm actually showing you the ones where it's not followed exactly here, because all the others are, you know, every time it's Jesus, it's God. They're worshiping him, okay? So this is not because they feel, you're not sure what the person's thinking. They're speculating. They're trying to interpret. Is the person really believing Jesus is God? And so it's unlikely, so they just don't use it there. Let's see if we can find any. Okay, I guess that makes the point. You know, you can see that if they want to, they bias the text, and maybe I should show you one of the biased ones. Well, I showed you the ones about the worship by the Magi. They don't know. They don't know what they're thinking. And again, you shouldn't do that. It's not right. You are adding something to the text. Let me show you one where they have Jesus say, okay, Matthew 28:9. And this actually is after his death and resurrection, I think. Suddenly Jesus met them and said, good morning. And they came to him and took hold of his feet and worshipped him. Now, all it means is they knelt down before him and probably grabbed his legs. That doesn't mean it's not a justification to use the word worshipped. See? Okay, that is my perfect example. So you as a Christian trying to decide, is the Trinity right or wrong, and you see the word worship next to Jesus, just take my word for it. 99% of the time it's misleading and a fraud, because they're just interpreting that, okay, in this instance, I'm going to not translate it literally anymore. I'm going to add in the meaning of worship to suggest my favorite doctrine called the Trinity is going to be confirmed by this particular verse. I got enough of these examples I've snuck in the Bible. There's about 10 I've done this. That's good enough. People are going to get the idea that worshiping Jesus is okay, and therefore they're going to think he's God, because that's all my agenda is. That's what they're really thinking. Because a job of a translator is never to do that. You do not load up text. You do not interpret what the people are thinking in the play you're witnessing. You let the text speak itself. And so if it just simply says bow the knee, proskineo, you should just use those words. And like I said, the only exception is if it's at a temple or if it's God, just out of respect for the situation, you could say bow the knee in reverence. That would be the only exception I would do, to add a little something to make it a little bit more, towards God. You want to show a little bit more respect towards God, but even that is maybe too much. Okay, I hope this helps people who are not understanding how our texts are manipulated to, herd us along into a group so we will follow the way they want us to go. Okay, God bless. I hope this helps everybody. Ciao. Bye.